What's an oof moment where you realized you've been doing something the wrong way for years? I owned a light blue colored microwave for about 3 years that a family member gave me for a housewarming gift. Thought it was cool, never saw a blue microwave before. One night, a buddy asked why I never took the blue plastic wrap off my microwave, then proceeded to peel it off for me. Damn, that oof is silver. Still miss my blue microwave sometimes though. After moving to a new city, I went to the laundromat and the Korean lady working was yelling at me about something I couldn't understand. After some pantomime, it became clear that she was upset I was putting in the wrong detergent, but it was the same kind I have been using for 8 years since moving away to college and behind. Turns out I've been washing my clothes with only fabric softener for nearly a decade. They always smelled good, so I never really thought about it. Not my proudest moment. My family always had a cup next to the bathroom sink in case you needed to rinse your mouth after brushing your teeth or maybe get a quick drink of water in the middle of the night. My grandma had the same cup at her house. I used it for years whenever I was thirsty. One day she saw me doing this and said, "Don't use that cup. That's where grandma puts her teeth." Work. When I was a kid, I was told that the paper that came on cupcakes/muffins was edible. I would spend a decade eating them like this, paper and all, until a friend pointed it out. Travel frequently for work and only just noticed that most laptop bags have a strap to place over a rolling suitcase handle. That's what that thing is for. Would probably look like Megamind if I learned as much in school as I do on this app. I taught myself how to play clarinet. 6 months later, someone told me that I'd been playing with the mouthpiece upside down. I used to fill the kettle by the spout. My parents have always done it this way. I thought the center part was mainly for decoration, but not functional. I don't know why I never questioned this. One day I bought a new tea kettle and my husband was like, "WTF, what is inside this?" and with great ease opened the center to pull out a manual with instructions and whatnot. I was drinking dirty paper water for like 2 weeks. I used to pull my pants down all the way at the urinal. Found out I was lighting incense wrong. Boyfriend and I got a bunch to add to our collection of nice smells and we would light them and they would just start a little inferno. Convinced we were buying cheap garbage incense, we stopped using them. I proceed to buy a different brand in a hope those would work. I test light and same thing, it just goes up in an inferno. Rumor informs us you are supposed to blow them out once they catch. Oops. I always thought eggplant tasted itchy, like itchy was a flavor, like sour or salty. Fed some to my baby and his face turned red wherever the eggplant touched, and I realized we are both just allergic to eggplant, and itchy isn't a flavor. One day I used the key fob to remotely start my dad's car. It was an oof moment for him. 2 years and he didn't realize he had this handy little function. I didn't find out that I was supposed to punch out for lunch until my 3rd job, and even then it was because a coworker mentioned it in passing that they were clocking out for lunch. Not mine, but my dad has been spelling his name wrong his whole life. He's 51. His name is Jeffrey, and he's been spelling it like that since he learned how to spell his name. A few months ago my mom pulled out his birth certificate and we all learned it's actually spelled Jeffrey. Not sure if he spells it correctly now, but it was definitely an oof moment for him. My wife and I have this ceiling fan/light in our bedroom in the house we moved into 2 years ago. It has a remote control for the fan and lights. About a year and a half ago the lights suddenly stopped working. The fan works well, and we didn't have a ton of money, so we've just lived with lamps in the room, always being frustrated with how damn dark it is. I was scrolling some other thread on AskReddit TIFF a few weeks ago, and the top post was a guy talking about how his lights stopped working years ago, and then he found out that it was just dimmed, which you do by holding down the button on the remote. It sounded so much like our fan I went and tried it. Dimmed. Living in a foreign country where I was actively learning the language. Social cues go a long way when learning a language on the spot. That being said, someone once said a phrase to me while serving a hot dish, which I assumed as meaning "excuse me." After going through crowds and lines, replicating the same phrase in an attempt to be respectful of those around me, I abruptly found out that the phrase actually meant enjoy. Hindsight completely makes sense. the odd looks I would get by saying enjoy while squeezing past people all of a sudden made sense. I'm vigorously checking this thread to make sure I'm not an idiot too. Not cause I've been doing something wrong my entire life, but saw it wrong. I'm colorblind and my entire life I thought peanut butter was green until I turned 19. And when I found out it was brown my mind was blown. It took so long because no one really talks about the color of things like that. When I was in high school I was talking to a colorblind friend asking the usual dumb questions like what color is a green light when you're driving, and he said he knows which light is which even though they all look gray. So I said, oh so Yoda is gray to you then? His horrified expression as he yelled, Yoda is green, was priceless. For years I would struggle to take the cap off new deodorant, the one under the lid. It always is so stuck down onto the deodorant stick. I had an aha moment a year or so ago that I could simply crank the deodorant stick up until the cap could easily be removed. I'm 34. It took me until age 34 to realize this. When I first got a debit card and would go out to eat at restaurants with my friends, I would leave a cash tip on the table. When I got the receipt to put how much I was paying I would write down how much money I left on the table. For at least 6 months I gave double tips to every waitress I had. My mom refused to show me how to use a tampon because she thought I should stick to pads because they were safer. This was back when googling how to do things wasn't an option, and I was the first in my friend group to get my period and a little sheepish about it. So basically I was shoving that sucker up there with the entire applicator for like 2 years, wondering why tampons didn't seem to work that well for me. It wasn't until I was in high school and one of my friends went on a crusade against plastic waste and started advocating for tampons with no applicators that all of a sudden I realized I had massively oofed up. Former school nurse here. The number of high school boys who don't know what circumcision is amazingly high. Many think they were born circumcised. When they finally see a foreskin, they are in complete awe. When they find out the brown ring on their roof is a scar from when their foreskin was removed, they are also amazed. Wow. My mom has been pronouncing Massachusetts for years and no one corrected her because they thought she just had strong feelings about Massachusetts. My name is Ryan. It took me until I was in first grade to realize my name wasn't in the alphabet. My mom had told me my name was in the alphabet and I felt so lucky. She obviously meant the letters to spell my name were in the alphabet. But nope. It took that long to realize the alphabet didn't go W, X, Y and Z. That you do, in fact, need to disassemble your laundry dryer and clean the lint out from underneath the drum once per year. I'm 31 and never knew this. No one ever said anything. Never saw anyone do this. Crappiest thing is that my parents also learned this the hard way and never bothered to give me a tip when I bought my first dryer. Luckily, the wife and I discovered the lint build up when changing the rollers. I said to my parents, wow, it really builds up in there, and they were like, oh yeah, you need to do that like once a year. We're at. So I had always assumed that gas stations had pipes that led to a nearby oil plant or something. I live in Houston, so during Hurricane Harvey in 2017 there was so much news about the gas stations being empty because they weren't being filled. I was in the car with my sisters and we were talking about it, and I mentioned I don't understand how the gas supply was limited when the pipes are underground and not affected by the flooding. They both looked at me with the most confused faces ever, and one of them said, you do know that trucks come to fill up gas stations, right? And I was completely shook by this and had no idea, and they asked me, so when you see the big trucks at little gas stations in the city with the tubes in the ground, what do you think they were doing? And I replied, filling up their gas. Not something I did wrong, but definitely something I thought wrong for 17 years. I didn't realize I had to brush the back of my teeth as well as the front. I was a dumb kid. I blamed toothpaste adverts until I was 15. Had 9 filings and a root canal. Wiping my hoof. I always thought everyone reached their hand between their legs, but after someone making a joke about wiping their hoof, I asked how they did it. Then for curiosity's sake I asked a bunch more people. I'm the only person I know that wipes their hoof from between their legs. I hear this conversation once in a while and it always seems shocking to people that some wipe sitting down, some only wipe standing up. Some wipe from behind. Some wipe from between their legs. It's almost as if we grew up not watching people wipe their roof floor. I wipe by swallowing a wad of toilet paper after every meal, which then wipes my hole on exit. I call it clean as you go.